All righty. So happy Wednesday party, people. So when was the last time you went through something hard or difficult? Maybe it was last week. Maybe you're going through it right now, or perhaps it was a couple of years ago. I doubt it's been that long. Most of us go through, it seems like, difficult situations and circumstances quite often. Um, but one of my greatest afflictions came when I attended OCS, Officer Candidate School with the Marines at Quantico, Virginia. Okay. What I always say when I talk about Quantico and OCS is it was the best, worst experience of my life. Like, I'm extremely grateful and blessed that I went through that, but I would never, ever in a million years, ever want to do that ever again. Okay. It completely changed me and it transformed me into a better leader and decision maker without a doubt. Like, I'm so immensely blessed I got to do that. Um, and I could tell you countless stories of misery. Okay. But the one that springs to mind that's most relevant for what I want to talk about support and accountability today is my first biovac, which is fancy talk for basically a miserable camping trip. Okay. What it entailed is we had to pack. Okay. We had to pack everything we had, regardless whether we're going to use it or not, into our bags. And so it made these backpacks about 60, 80 pounds worth of stuff. And then we were blessed with the opportunity to then walk 3 or 4 miles up and down hills. Mainly it seemed like up, I'm not going to lie, which was not super fun. Okay. Plus, as luck would have it, about halfway through it started to snow and the clay and the mud got wet. Yeah, so it got slick and nasty. And then once we arrived at our stinking destination, we had to set up camp. So you're freezing, you're wet, you're miserable, and now you had to make perfect, and I mean perfect, columns and rows. Okay. In the Marines, everything has to be the same, everything has to be perfect. Okay. So the tents, the backpacks, the shovels, you name it, everything had to be perfect. All right, it had to be exactly the same. And then once that was finished, we got to eat. Okay. And by eating, it meant munching on MREs. Um, I think I got like eggs, bacon in a plastic bag. It was terrible. Okay. Anyway, if you had an MRE, you know what I'm talking about. But like I say, when you're starving, it doesn't really matter that much. Also, the snow was really coming down. Was still coming down, and it was getting like super cold. And it's probably, honestly, it probably was still cold, but it probably wasn't terrible because you're wet and whatnot, and you're on the ground. It's probably just made it 10 times worse. But up until now, things had sucked. But once the sun dipped down, things got cold and life was miserable. Like, having lived in Montana, I've never been this cold before in my life. This was by far the coldest I've ever been before or since. And our tent was barely big enough for two grown men to lay down like side by side. So his head was here, my head was here, and we ended up like hugging each other's feet with the backpack because we were so cold. Okay. Um, and we laid there, and like my battle buddy or rack mate and I, like, we just laid there freezing all night. Okay, the next morning, like at 6 a.m. or 4 a.m. rather, we got up, packed up, and we hiked out. And that was just one of many epic experiences and adventures I was blessed with at OCS. It was the most stressful environment I think you can be put under without getting shot at. Okay. And the only reason I made it through was because of the support and accountability from Lefevre, my rack mate. If he hadn't been there, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't have made it. Okay. And so when it comes to losing weight and getting fit, everyone, like myself in the story that I just told, needs support and accountability when we're going through difficult situations or circumstances. Okay. And for most people, trying to eat right, exercise, meal prep, make yourself a priority, etc., that's hard enough. And it's nearly impossible to do it alone. Plus, like, we often are too ashamed to ask for help and support. It kind of makes us feel like failures if we don't just pull up our bootstrap and do this on our own, kind of a thing. But the verse of the day reminds us we need help and support. Okay, and the verse is in 2 Corinthians 1, 3-4, it says, Praise be to the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of compassion and the God of all comfort, who comforts us in all of our troubles so that we can comfort those in any trouble with the comfort we ourselves receive from God. All right. And the thing is we will all face difficult situations and circumstances in our lives. Okay. And we need support and accountability especially during those difficult situations and times. We aren't meant to do life alone. Okay. We are meant to both seek out help when needed as well as provide help and support and accountability when able. Okay. So finally, when it comes to losing weight and getting fit, the same truth applies. We must be willing to be open and honest. We must be willing to let others come alongside us and support us. And most importantly, we must be willing to tell others when we are struggling. Okay. The most common and honestly worst mistake that you can make when you're struggling and suffering is to try and suffer through something alone. Okay. Be like, well, I'll go ask for help once I get through this rough patch. And a lot of times it makes that rough patch way worse, way longer, and sometimes you don't get through it and you end up quitting. Okay. And we don't want that for you. So, with that said, is there something you are struggling with and need some support and accountability on? Please let me know. All right. I hope you have an amazing Wednesday. Go be awesome. Bye.